Bella? Yep. Hello, everyone. Why? Okay. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. This is our first System Performance Committee meeting for the new year. I want to thank everybody right off the top for responding to the emails that Bella and I sent out over the week. It's been very helpful for us to navigate, integrate what we want to do with this committee. My name is Marvin Futrell. I am a newly seated co-chair, and I'd like to introduce Bella Irons, my other co-chair. Bella, did you want to say a few words?
Hello. Can everybody hear me okay? Perfect. Thank you so much, Marvin. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We have been diligently trying to get on top of becoming new co-chairs for this year and meeting with Daniel to make sure that we can give good updates and get a good grounding underneath all of us. And I really appreciate everybody's participation. And I'm open. I am offering a welcome open invite for anybody to send questions, comments, concerns. And you've already received an email from me this week confirming your participation in the work that we have ahead. So yeah, I invite all of it. And I look forward to updating you today. Thanks for the opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you, Bella. Alex, can we do a roll call?
Yep. Yes, we can. Please say here when I call your name. Tamara Bauman.
Here.
Sherry Tillman. Christina Height. Ruby Romero.
Here.
Emil Floresca.
Here.
Marvin Futrell.
Here.
Christina Salwicki. Let me double check. Q&A. Chat. Okay, no Christina and Frank Schott. Ben Vaughan. Victoria Ewig Kwan.
Wait, did you get me? Sorry.
Oh, who was that? Was that? Sorry, I can't see myself. That was Ben.
I was struggling to unmute. Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. Thank you.
Victoria Ewing Kwan is here as well, and just flagging that it looks like Christina is in the public attendees list.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I'll mark her as present. And Bella Irons.
Present.
Awesome. We have quorum with 8 members present and 3 members absent.
Thank you very much, Alex. One of the things that I've always appreciated about the system performance is that we always started with a grounding. And I would like to continue that tradition into 2025. So, Bella, will you lead us off with the theory of change?
I would love to, but I do not have it in front of me right now. So if anybody else has the theory of change in front of them, I would appreciate you stepping in and participating right now. Thank you.
I have it right here. If we create a homelessness response system that centers people who have lived experience of homelessness, then we will be able to meet the needs and eliminate inequalities in order to end homelessness for all. And
thank you, Alex.
I will post the land acknowledgement in the chat, or I can read it. It's up to you.
Now that we've done the grounding for the system side of work, I was I had asked Tamara to ground us with land acknowledgement.
Love it.
Tamara, yeah.
Yes, I am. And I am happy to share a land acknowledgement that honors the lands of Native Hawaii and the lands of Native Hawaiians. And I'm going to pull that up right now. And then, aloha, my name is Tamara Bauman. I am a guest on the land of the Duwamish and Coast Salish peoples. I currently can trace my family roots back to the ancestral lands of Tonga and Germany. I would like to begin by acknowledging that the Aina on which we gather is part of the larger territory recognized by Indigenous Hawaiians as their ancestral grandmother, Papa Ha'ana Amoku. We suggest you do a little bit of research on your own or in partnership with folks from the area. I recognize that Her Majesty Queen Lili Uokalani yielded the Hawaiian Kingdom and these territories under duress and protest to the United States to avoid the bloodshed of her people. I further recognize that Hawaii remains in an illegally occupied state of America. I recognize that each moment I am in Hawaii, she nourishes and gifts me with the opportunity to breathe her air, eat from her soils, drink from her waters, bathe in her sun, swim in her oceans, be kissed by her rains, and be embraced by her winds. I further recognize that generations of Indigenous Hawaiians and their knowledge systems shaped Hawaii in sustainable ways that allow me to enjoy these gifts today. For this, I am grateful, and as a guest, I seek to support the varied strategies that the Indigenous peoples of Hawaii are using to protect their land and their communities. And I commit to dedicating time and resources to working in solidarity. Mahalo.
Thanks, Tamara. And the last piece, I'm going to call on Ruby to give us a song or a spoken word that speaks to the culture of the work that we're trying to introduce to our communities. Ruby?
Yeah,
If I got that
thank
wrong,
you.
let me know.
Nope, thank you so much, Marvin. I appreciate that. And also I wanted to say thanks to Tamara for that lovely land acknowledgement, and thanks to Alex for reading The Theory of Change. Today, I'm actually going to start us with kind of a traditional poem from our country here. And I thought it was a good way to start with Tamara's land acknowledgement, blessing the Queen of Hawaii. So this is a good transition. This is called The New Colossus. And 10 points if you get where if you know where this is from. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome, her mild eyes command, the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands, you storied pomp, she cries with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Thank you.
We need a picture of the Statue of Liberty with that poem. All right. Thank you. Now we're going to enter into our agenda. I'm going to pass to Bella, who will then introduce Daniel for some of the presentations for today.
Daniel, do you want to share the screen and post the agenda for everyone, please?
I'll go ahead and do that and post the agenda in the chat, and I'll pull it up. Alex, are you able to share screen and pull that up?
Thank you.
You willing to do that and not in the chat? And for those of you who might be either listening in or even in the room here, oops, that second link, excuse me, is the landing page to our System Performance Committee. And on that landing page, you'll find our agenda each month. and any archived agendas. You can go back and look there. And I just want to say thank you, Alex. She's always on top of this and ensuring that we are getting this updated to the website and published for you all. I think one of the first call outs I'll just say here is you're going to see it's pretty light. I think one of the pieces that Marvin and Bella, we talked about in the planning sessions was slowing down a little bit and making sure that we give plenty of space to go over the items that we bring up. And I think this is a good reset for 2025. So appreciate that feedback from the committee and Bella and Marvin for supporting and championing us, kind of paring it down. So what you'll see here is board and committee member updates at the top. So if there are any updates from the CoC board meeting, it looks like it might say convening there. That's supposed to say boards and committees. Apologies there. And then we have Hannah Whitworth, who's come back today. We gave a end of year presentation on the coordinated entry DV configuration. It just did not go very well for a variety of audio issues, timing issues, and just the technical depth of some of the presentation. So I wanted to do a quick recap on that and then open it up for some back and forth with the committee, making sure that everyone understands where we're heading. And thank you, Hannah, for being here again today. And then going over the 2024 end year recap. This is really important to our co-chairs to set for this beginning of the year agenda, understanding where we were at, what we accomplished, and then how that sets the stage for 2025. So that's on the agenda, and there's a presentation that I'll be giving most of it, doing most of the presentation, and then handing it over to Bella and Marvin for highlights in specific slides, and then opening up really to the committee to just go over and answer questions and dive into that of last year. And my hope there is also to open it up to what went well, what could be improved, and then taking those notes so that we can implement that process improvement for the committee. On that, handing it back to Bella, Marvin, Tamara, Ruby, on any board or committee updates that we want to relay to the committee.
I'm happy to give an update for the CoC board. I wanted to also acknowledge that Sherry Tillman did just arrive into the meeting, so I wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Marvin. Is it okay to do the CoC update really quick?
Yep.
All right, great, thank you. So yeah, we have the Continuum of Care board meeting. We had that last week where we did see the updates on the DV CHAP system, which we're going to go a little bit further in depth today on that. And I'm excited to really engage with that work as a person that has survived domestic violence. I think it's really important to make sure that we're connecting systems where they need to be connected and that everybody has the information available to them. So that's great. The Continuum of Care is actually going to be having our member convening, which is going to be at the end of the month on the 29th the 29th, Wednesday, the 29th from 10 a.m. to 1. It is actually going to be an online or a virtual convening, but we are going to be having in-person ones later on in the year. This is just the first one that's kind of making up for the one that we missed during the bomb cyclone scenario. So we're looking forward to that, and we look forward to seeing our service providers there and anyone in the community that wants to come and pitch in on our work plan for the year. We'd be happy to have you. And you can find that you're going to need to sign up for the convening, and I believe that's going to be on the Continuum of Care page at kcrha.org. For the cross-cutting policy work group, we're going to be looking at the rapid rehousing housing standards for KCRHA, and we're going to give a recommendation on if it should be approved by the board or if any changes needed to be made. And we're going to send it to the Continuum of Care board for, I believe, the February or the March meeting to be voted on in March. So that's exciting. And yeah, I think that unless I'm missing anything, Tamara, let me know if I'm missing anything, but I think we're kind of just getting started for this new year. So thank you.
Thank you, Ruby.
Ruby, this is Daniel. Would you be willing to give the committee just a kind of a brief description of the CoC membership and what that body is made of, so they understand kind of what they're plugging into?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a great question. Thank you, Daniel. So for the Continuum of Care program, it's actually three separate things. Well, it's not separate, they're all together, but they're three different types of things. So it's a funding stream that we talk about for the Continuum of Care funding for homeless services by HUD. And then also it's a geographical area. As we know, we are in King County. So that's our geographical area. As a continuum, we're Seattle, King County. And but as a membership, we're a convening group that is committed to ending homelessness in our area. So that could be people that are working in hospitals. We could see service providers, people with living and lived experience of homelessness or other systems. We also have, we like to make sure that we're connected with the domestic violence sector. And we have service providers, the federal government, hospitals, universities. So it can be anybody from any group. We're really just looking for our community members that want to be committed or that are committed to ending homelessness within our region and are committed to finding innovative ways to do so that are in alongside the people that are experiencing homelessness and that are not harmful practices. So does that answer the question?
It sure does. It's a great one. I would just highlight it also allows folks, agencies, organizations who aren't funded by the system that but provide homeless response a area in which to speak to how the system's working, what's working for them, it's a good share of knowledge. It's just not always folks with lived experience, but folks with experience of working the issue of housing our people and what they run into. The membership is a powerful piece of our continuum of care.
I would argue the most important. So thank you so much, Marvin. Thank you.
Right. I'll pass back to Bella.
Thanks, Marvin. And thank you for the agenda overview, Daniel. Is there any, are we at public comment right now? Are there any questions in the chat that we need to address?
We just have one member who is struggling to get on. Frank, I'm just letting you know, sent you the panelist link. Alex, if I could maybe do a handoff to you and see if you could work with Frank, if we can't in real time, get him on in the next couple of seconds here.
Yes.
Co-chairs, do we want to pause until Frank is fully functional here?
We'll accept that request.
Great. Let's see. Let's get Frank in.
I just resent his panelist link.
And I'm not certain, but I think that is the issue, is that it might just be the public link.
Frank then.
Oh, great. Welcome, Frank.
Righty.
Thanks, Alex. I see him.
No problem.
I
So,
take it there's no questions in the chat right now, so we can move forward.
Yes.
Okay.
Typically, one of the co-chairs would open it up.
I will open it up. I don't have a good sight line for the agenda. If I believe what's next on the agenda is starting the anyone can tell me what's the next line item on the agenda. I'll happily open it up. I had Yes, please. What's the next line item?
That would be the open public comment section.
And so there was no one signed. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex. There was no one signed for public comment. So great. So that at this point we will close public comment. Please.
Sorry, y'all. This is Emil. I was wanting to speak on behalf of, I guess, public comment because I see there's some participants here that I just wanted to share kind of information about with everyone in this group. So yeah, on behalf of a couple people on the attendees list or the for public comment, I wanted to share a bit about another group I'm part of called the Young Adult Provider Core Team. It's made up of different service providers such as Social Impact Center, Youth Care, Catholic Community Services, Friends of Youth, KCRHA, Valley Cities, Roots, and New Horizons. We meet once a month to talk about like the homelessness response system and figure out ways to collaborate and really like improve things, especially around coordinated entry. So that's, again, I see in the attendees list, I know that there's Nicole from CE and then also Ellie. So just wanted to speak on their behalf of that as well, because they're part of that group or that team. So one of the things we've worked on is creating a housing one-pager directory. It's designed to help staff better match clients with services. And it's really being introduced at the daily youth and young adult office hours. And we've also discussed several issues like the current CE prioritization system and how to make it more equitable. Essentially, that's one of the biggest things that we've discussed. I also know that there's also a coordinated. We also know that there's a coordinated entry committee, and this was actually brought up to the group because I shared with them that I was part of the systems performance committee committee meetings. So this is how it kind of got brought up. But one of the things that I actually personally didn't know is if we ever communicated anything with, like the CE committee and all of that. So I just wanted to put this out there as the, as like that group is hoping to bring up some of the topics that we talk about as future agenda items for us. And I know with Marvin and Bella coming on into this new year, just wanted to kind of just share that out for y'all as a group as well, and kind of see if there's anything to drive there as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Emil. And I'm not entirely sure, Daniel, how can we bring up topics or Marvin bring up possible agenda items, or how do we review those to possibly bring them into future agenda items?
I think that's a great question. Emil, thank you for that. Just a couple things for the committee to know and co-chairs. There's nothing in the charter or bylaws that would prohibit us from responding to open comment, and that goes for all the committee members. For those of you that follow some of the rules on committees and boards, that is not anything that we can't respond to. So that's great. Emil, thank you again. What I would recommend is when we do the agenda setting for the February or upcoming meeting, then fold Emil's item into that.
Oh, great. Okay, so I'll definitely connect with Bella and Marvin if anything too. As I get that, I'll definitely just be in communication with y'all. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you much.
It's like Ruby has her hand up too.
Oh, Emil, yeah, I just was interested to learn more about your group. If so, I was just hoping I could maybe get an email or we could connect. And thank you so much.
Yeah, let's do that for sure.
All right, let's do it.
Yep.
All right. Is there any more public comment? Going once? Going twice?
Hold on
One second, Marvin.
Yeah, Ellie, there's a question.
Okay.
Right now. Go ahead and read it. It says, thanks, Emil. Appreciate you speaking on our behalf. This is Ellie, the Director of Housing Services at New Horizons. She says she doesn't have access to a mic or chat, but would love to share more in the future about challenges with young adults and facing coordinated entry with the current tie-breaking method. So right now, that is the only question that I've had come in.
I also would like to pause to give open to allow for that public comment. And Alex, I pinged you on the side. Is that, can we promote here, Ellie? And thank you for hanging tight, Ellie.
Ellie, you have permission to talk.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm Ellie. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Housing Services at New Horizons. Super appreciate, Emil, you bringing this up and would love to see it on the agenda next month. I'd be happy to share more about just how the current tie-breaking method in coordinated entry is specifically affecting our younger adults who have super short episodes of homelessness in comparison to their older peers. So it's been really challenging to get them connected to the resources that they need, especially with permanent supportive housing. So happy to share more at any point. Anyone can reach out, but would love to see that on the agenda next month.
Thank you
Thanks,
so much,
Ellie.
Ellie.
I want to offer that one of the things that we are striving to do is not only get things on an agenda, but actually have pathways for lines of communication so that we can become aware and share it in spaces such as the Continuum of Care Board or the Coordinated Entry Committee and within the system performance, because I don't think any one system or committee fully addresses the process around our prioritization tool, its impact, other than what we're learning at meetings like this. So again, thank you. And we'll be in touch. All righty. I think we were, any more public comment? Going once? Going twice? Oh, there's another one.
No hands.
Thank you.
Yep.
Going 3 times. At this time, we will close public comment, and I will hand it back to Bella to get us into the agenda items.
Thanks, Marvin. Daniel, I believe, are we going into the review and the commitment? If Alex could go ahead and share the screen for the PowerPoint. Or are we going into the review first? I apologize.
Oh yeah,
The DV review.
The on the agenda, the way it's sequenced is we have Hannah Whitworth with us from the Coalition for Ending Gender-Based Violence and myself, and I that would be what I had planned for, is to talk a bit about configuration there, and we could, Hannah, you have ability to unmic. You're good. Okay, there you are. Okay, great. So at the end of our last meeting, we hurried through a really important topic, which was our coordinated entry for domestic violence survivors. And we gave a presentation that was pretty technical. We didn't have a lot of time, and we did have some, I think, just some audio issues going on at that time as well. So what I wanted to do is, we have about 10 minutes on the agenda. I want to just talk about the configuration at a pace that I think is a little bit more accessible and give you time to ask questions about it. And so Hannah's joining me today. So in that presentation, you saw a lot of different slides about what we were pitching and what we were hoping to do. And I wanted just to zoom out and then kind of lead us down to the point that was hoping to make at the last meeting, which was over the last decade or so, coordinated entry has had its implementation within homeless systems across the United States, and that includes our CoC. That work really started in earnest for most communities in 2015, and in King County, that was launched in that same time period. What did not necessarily happen was a coordinated entry specifically for DV survivors. There were a lot of unique needs of that group and of those households that were being served by those interventions specifically that were tailored. At that time, coordinated entry, the coalition, and all the folks doing that good work had created a system of operationalizing a system of matching individuals to those interventions and to and spending down those funds specifically for those groups, as was given by the Women's Against Violence Act, or Violence Against Women's Act, that Congress publishes every year for funding. And over the last year, we've been working with the coalition, and the coalition's been working with providers to understand what is currently being done and what will we need to do to bring that work into the HMIS. And we received an award from HUD last year to do that work. And so we have really been holding a lot of meetings and figuring out what is the best way, what is the best protected, secure, and meaningful way to bring that into HMIS that will allow for us to securely have those activities happening in the homeless management information system, recording the things that we need to, so that we can ultimately report to HUD, which is the requirement for the funding that we received. And there were a lot of different things that we had to consider about bringing those providers into the HMIS. They are actually already, many of them are already in the HMIS, but operating as just a standalone provider like any other program would be doing enrollments. What we have designed is a new configuration that's essentially like building an apartment within the HMIS, that only these domestic violence survivor providers can go in and enter in data, and only they will have access to that information. And what this would allow is for us to see those activities when referrals get put in, when assessments are done, the count of persons accessing help, and ultimately being able to do that reporting. And I think there's a greater vision that eventually, after collecting enough information over the course of a year, let's say 2025, we can start to see where are areas that we can improve, feedback from providers, how do we make this better for you? But this all really starts with getting your approval to do this apartment configuration with this security in place and allow those providers to do that work in the HMIS. And what we did, Hannah and I, and I'll say Hannah and Leah, because they both were the drivers for this, was getting those providers together, getting their input, and understanding what their needs are. And the position of KCRHA and the community impact team, the HMIS team, is that this will actually bring that work, modernize that work, and allow for more controls and security that just are being done as effectively as they can, but the coalition is using other applications and ways of storing that information that will become much more secure if we allow this configuration in the HMIS. I do want to open up for questions, but before I do that, I want to hand it over to Hannah in case I've missed anything fundamental there about some of the positives or trade-offs of doing this that you might want to bring to the group.
I think you actually covered it pretty well. Yeah, I'm happy to help answer questions. So, and yeah, any specifics too.
Daniel, I think it might be important to possibly reiterate some of the other questions that came up when it was first presented that might not have been able to be heard or, be replied to at that time when we were having the back and forth. And I believe that we had kind of a a break in between there to get them resolved. Were any of those initial questions that were asked available?
Yeah, I think one of the questions was about one of the questions, and I think, Bella, you may be drawing from the CoC board meeting, possibly. Yes. So in the CoC board meeting, this presentation was given, and Dorsal and Ruby were both there, and they had some questions about the setup. And one of them was about reporting and system level analytics and how that would work with our mainstream system. And the report that we're really aiming to complete, which is our part of our compliance, is the annual performance report. And this is a report that will collect all of the referrals, diversion attempts, outcomes of the coordinated entry DV system, that collection of providers and all their work, and tabulate that so we can give it to HUD. I think one of Dorsal's questions was, how do we do a systems analysis if we have a walled off secure environment? And that is, in full transparency, is going to be one of the trade-offs to security, is that we won't be able to, it will be nested in the HMIS, but we won't be able to pull that data together because of the security requirements and the intent of the regulations on how to keep that information secure. So we will get an annual performance report for the coordinated entry DV system. Will we be able to compare that one for one with our mainstream system? Not in the ways that you might think where we would mash together a report, but we could look at the outcomes in comparison to the mainstream system. So that is possible. What I would recommend, which I usually do with something that we're implementing that's brand new, is let's give it some time to gather baseline data, see what we're getting out of the baseline reports, and then from there build on what do we need for planning, what do we need to answer questions to improve this, and really figure out what would be the goal we're trying to meet. And then from there, we can kind of reverse what report we might need or what data points could get us there, and may be able to overcome that walled off environment. And I know one of our analysts is here, and I'm sure his gears are turning on some possible solutions. So we really do have a good data team that have worked through these kind of issues before. So I think once we know what we want to report on, we can do the work on our data management team and analytics team to figure out how to get us there and get this committee the information they need. A little bit long-winded answer there, but I'll just say it's possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for addressing it.
Tamara has her hand up.
Yeah, I think this is a beautiful thing, and I'm always going to be in favor of strengthening relationships across systems, especially when it means supporting the healing and the recovery and the safety of survivors of domestic violence. I've been there, so that issue is very close to my heart. I've worked in that system. I've worked in the homeless response system, so I understand that like intricacies of those specific networks. And so I really do think that, sometimes the trade-offs are going to be difficult to manage, but like if the greater good means survivors feel safer and can navigate systems like independently of systems, and self-determination is supported throughout, and like our systems are only here to support the communities that are accessing services. I just think it's a beautiful marriage of systems or communities that has been long overdue. And I remember back then when I was working in DV that this was going to be a problem. And so here it is, and I'm so grateful that it's finally happening.
Thanks, Tamara. Do other board members have questions and or accurately remember being reviewing the DV policy that we were shown? Can't see everyone. Daniel?
Not a committee member, but I do have a question, kind of just to kind of prompt some more thinking here. Hannah, having you here, you had talked about in the last presentation some of the pros to moving into HMIS, and I was wondering if you could maybe do a little bit of a recap, some of the standardization and prioritization and things that we heard from the delegates at the last coalition meeting, and maybe elevate some of those positives that they talked about and they were focused on.
Yeah, so with this transition, we're planning to revamp both the release of information to bolster that, as well as the assessment itself. With that, in redoing the assessment, hoping to make right now we have a lot of narrative, and hoping to still leave room for narrative. That's a request of our community partners, but also trying to incorporate more kind of solidified answers, and to expedite that prioritization process and make it more unified across housing providers. And so I'm hoping a lot of the legwork for that can be done within this system, as well as improved communication by using the system. Right now, we have 2 different portals to complete assessments, and we have 2 different assessments. And so you can imagine that the information that we get from these different assessments varies. And so it's just not very consistent across our current system. So I'm hoping the transition to this database will improve that, as well as what Daniel was speaking on is, yes, we have this obligation for that annual progress report, but also being able to really analyze our system and even internally, and to improve upon it just by being able to collect that data ourselves.
Thank you, Hannah. That's very informative, and thanks for asking that question, Daniel. It provides me a lot more context for what it is that you're presenting to us. I do have a question. Is this because just understanding that there's these different, questionnaires and templates for people to fill out, and that I'm hearing a lot of consolidation and streamlining and communication streamlining, and more of a synergistic kind of approach. Is this process, this planning, based off of any other areas that have been doing similar things? Is there any reporting out from anybody else that's been doing something like this or facing those challenges? What was the impetus? Are we leading in this area? Those are kind of some of my higher level questions about what it is that you guys are offering for us to understand more about. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I can take that on, and you can follow up, Daniel, if you'd like. I've met a couple times now with San Francisco's HOPE team, which is their DV chap to their one system, which is their coordinated entry. And they, just within their very recently, I think they launched maybe this past fall. So they don't quite have full-on results. However, they walked me through their assessment. They used several TA partners, which I got the names of off the top of my head, Bliss, and I can get a list of the ones they used, but they were sourcing from different COCs, I believe Chicago, maybe Austin, and a couple others. So it's definitely like cross-national COC informed. And, I think there's a lot of pros of how what they've accomplished and how they approached it. And also I can already highlight some, things that might not work in our community. So it will be slightly different. They have 3 housing providers. We have a few more in our system. So, and they're, you know, citywide, we're countywide. So there's just some variation there. But yeah, we're hoping to, once we get, you know, if approved, and then get connected to those TA providers, and those TA providers have a lot of resources, and we would be able to get connected to additional COCs to understand what all is out there, what all is being done. I think, you know, when in terms of like nationwide, we would still be like pretty, every system, it would be like more catered to our community. And, you know, if there's a community that is more similar to ours, we would be kind of on the front lines of developing that as well. So we could potentially be setting an example for other COCs elsewhere.
And
Thank you,
I'll just,
Hannah.
I'll add to that I worked with Talia, who is our basically counterpart at the state level, who runs their HMIS for the state, and they looked over the configuration. They have no concerns, and they added that Washington State is already leading the nation in terms of its privacy and security requirements for HMIS. So I think to maybe explicitly answer some part of that, Bella, is that I think we would still be in the lead in terms of how we do our privacy and security, just by way of how our laws are set in Washington State. We also worked with our BitFocus team, and they have reviewed the configuration, and they are also able to execute that and maintain the security as they approve that internally as well. So I think at a couple different levels, we do have support, and we are working with our HUD TA as well, working closely with them.
Thanks
Thank you
for
to
the,
you both. Yeah. So
well, I'll leave Bella to call for a vote. That's the action piece to this, is they require our approval to conduct the work in 2025. So we have something to review at the end of the year. So.
okay, bear with me, everyone, since this is the first time that I've called for a vote on something. Do we need to open it up for any more comments, any discussion at this time?
Well, I'll help that process. I'll move that we move forward with this, the new DV piece to HMIS. We get a second, then we can actually have discussion.
This is Tamara, I second.
Thanks, Tamara. Now
My
we
third.
can do discussion.
Any questions, comments on moving this forward and voting? Is there anything in the chat?
I just want
Okay,
to make sure
do
that
I-
I'm getting, oh, sorry, Bella.
Go ahead, Alex.
Just want to make sure that I was getting the motion correct. Could you restate it?
Well,
The motion.
it's so that we're actually fully correct. Daniel, what did we need to approve to have the work continue? You give me the language, I'll make it the motion.
A sort of for this, the motion would be that we're bringing forward is to approve the configuration of the HMIS coordinated DV activities into HMIS like we do the mainstream coordinated entry system.
Did you?
Not like it, excuse me. As our mainstream system is in HMIS, we're trying to bring that work into the HMIS. So the request is to approve the configuration of coordinated entry DV in the HMIS.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Passing back to Bella, usually we just simply do this through a roll call vote. We do have quorum.
Okay, do we want to list what we're asking for approval in the chat so that everybody has full access to what we're asking them to vote on? I don't know if I've seen that before. We're doing this all kind of on audio right now, but I, for one, would appreciate being able to have multiple ways of communicating what we're asking everybody to vote on.
It's done.
Thank you,
I went ahead and
Alex.
put that in the chat.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks Danielle for jumping in there. All right. It's like I don't want to word it wrong. Okay. Are you ready to call for a vote?
Okay, so we are calling for a vote. I'm putting forward a motion to approve the configuration of coordinated entry DV into HMIS. Do I get a second? Are we voting? We're doing a roll call vote. Sorry, I apologize.
You're good. Tamara seconded it as well. Okay, here we go. Please state your vote when I call your name. Tamara Bauman,
Approve.
Sherry Tillman,
Approve.
thank you. Christine, if you just want to put yours in the Q&A, I'll be able to take your vote that way. Moving on, Christina Height, she's still not here. Ruby Romero,
Approve.
thank you. Emil Floresca,
Approve.
Marvin Futrell,
Approve.
thank you. Christina Sawicki, see. Okay, I don't see anything, but I will keep. I'll come back to her. Frank Schott.
Aye, which is my way of saying approved.
I think that's the more formal way. Ben Vaughan,
Approve.
Victoria Iwikwan,
Approve.
thank you. Bella Irons.
Approve.
Right, the motion to approve the configuration of coordinated entry DV into HMIS is approved with nine votes, 9 yays.
Great work. Thank you very much. If there's no more on this topic, I'll hand it back to Bella to introduce our next line item.
Ruby, you have your hand up.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you.
you.
I just put it up, Marvin. No worries. I was just curious, will the CoC board need to approve this as well, or is this the last stop for this this configuration? Thank you.
Thank you. I will have to look into that because I do not know at present. Can any of the KCRHA staff help us here? Does this need approval of the Continuum of Care board, the whole board, or is this a working piece for us?
My understanding, as of my last check-in with our lead in coordinating the board charter and SPC and coordinated entry charter, is the system performance committee does a vote, the coordinated entry committee does a vote, and the CoC is also does and completes a vote for this.
Answer to your question, Ruby, is that yes, they will vote on this.
Great. Thank you. I'm glad to see 3 touches on things. That's good to see. I'm making that's awesome. We're making sure everybody's on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I did want to just for those of you that want to get the presentation again, that will be happening January 23rd at the next coordinated entry committee, where we're slated to go through that voting process as well. And that meeting will be at 10 a.m. The link is in the chat at the very top.
Thank you for that, Daniel. Are there any other questions or comments before we move on to the next agenda item? And also, before we do that, do we have a time for a break? Or is this a continuous until 4 p.m.?
I'll defer to
We thought about that when we were putting together our agenda. It looks like we're pushing through. That's what the agenda says. It doesn't show a break, but I'll entertain a motion for a quick 5-minute break.
I'd be happy to second that motion.
All righty.
And
It
this is
is
Ruby.
Ruby. Are there any objections to us taking a quick 5-minute break and coming back to conclude our work today? All righty, it is now 2:59. We'll come back together at, I'm sorry, it is now 3 o'clock. We'll come back together at 3:05.
Awesome, thanks.
Well, all the way to Marysville School District.
We're back in a few seconds. Back, Daniel.
Happy to be back.
We be back. Have others joined us? Oh, hello, everyone. Hopefully everyone's back. Please pop off mute real quick and let us know that.
I'm here, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Yep. Here.
Victoria's here.
Here.
Thank you, Tam. Ruby's here. Thank you. All righty. Well, let's jump back into our agenda. Bella, I think the next line item is, remember from my position, I can't see an agenda. I am working while actually out in the community moving around. So I'm going to rely heavily that we share what the next line item is and introduce the folks presenting.
I actually am in the same boat. I do not have the agenda pulled up in front of me here. I know you presented it earlier, Alex.
That's why we have Alex.
Marvin, someday you're gonna learn to pull up the agenda before a meeting, I swear.
I got to
All right.
feel enough to do that. But okay, I will work on that.
It looks like were we going into the end of the year recap? But I think, or I don't know, because we did the coordinated entry DV configuration. So I think the next one on the agenda is the end of the year recap. I don't know if we're missing any updates from the HMIS BitFocus team or not. But yeah, just throwing that out there.
No,
Thank you,
we don't really have anything from Lauren and Melissa to present. I may be interjecting here, but Lauren and Melissa are here on standby in case there's any questions about some of the details on the presentation today. Lauren and Melissa, you didn't get a lot of heads up. I didn't think there were going to be a lot of questions for you, so thank you both for being here, though. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem at all. And I do actually also have some trend. I know that this group wanted some data on trends over time. So I did pull together some visualizations for some topics to kind of visualize the trends over the last year.
Okay, that's great, Melissa. I would recommend the co-chairs, we go through the presentation, and then if we want to, and Melissa, sorry, you're ensnared in committee admin stuff, but we would just vote to add that to the agenda, and then we could go through that. Also, it might just kind of tack on to maybe some of the questions that come up, and we can field it that way too. So if we can maybe be flexible on that. And Melissa, thank you so much for putting that together. And hopefully we have time to do that today. And if not, we can follow up next one.
Yeah, thanks, Melissa. Daniel, do you have the screen share or is Alex screen sharing the PowerPoint?
Share just a few minutes ago. It's a little easier for me if someone else has it up. So I can look at my notes, but I also have it queued up too. Alex, whatever is easier. Oh, I'll
We
go ahead,
didn't hear you, Alex.
I'll go ahead and pull it up, Alex. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now and we'll get onto it.
Thanks, Daniel.
So, thumbs up, some positive feedback. Can we see that? I'm being heard pretty clearly, hopefully. Okay, great. So one of the things I do want to just share is with Marvin and Bella coming on board, this is as much as a presentation for them as well as new co-chairs. So we're all in this together. If there's anything new that comes up or things that you're like, oh, I already knew that, that's great. At the end, I really want to give an opportunity for the group to discuss the different items and then also just get feedback on what went well in some of those situations and any suggestions you have for improvements. And I'm sure there's a lot there. If you could maybe think of like your one or two top pieces that you want to bring forward, that would be helpful, and we'll take notes and we'll evaluate that. But really here today to do a year-end wrap-up of the System Performance Committee and the work that happened. Some of you were there from the very start, some of you joined in the middle, and some of you joined at the end. So the hope here, and I think I want to highlight Bella's foresight here, was if we want to be delegates of the work that we do and continue forward on the work that's been done, we need to know what happened in the previous year. And that really was the impetus to this end year recap. Now, did we capture everything? Probably not. Did we capture the most critical functions? Hopefully, yes. I would like if questions could be held maybe closer to the end, and then we can reference the various slides that we go through as they come up in conversation. With that, I'll move forward with our first part of the presentation, which is our agenda. I'll be going over the highlights, some trainings, and talk a little bit about the interconnectedness between our community impact work and the accomplishments of the SPC, and then that reflection section. There is a slide that says 2023. It should be 2024, so my bad on that. I didn't have time to update that in the few minutes before. So here we go. Some of the highlights of the system. I do want to just again elevate all of the good work of our HMIS admin team, Melissa, Lauren. Thank you so much for all your work this year. In terms of the committee, we had quorum all year. I think it's really important to acknowledge that people stayed engaged and you all came to the meeting. This is a real bright spot for this committee. I know other committees and boards had for reasons they were not able to hold the 11 meetings that we were able to and continue and the momentum on all the work that we were doing. So thank you all for showing up. In that, at a system level, we had 549 new users onboarded in 2024. So there's really that growth piece. I'm sure Melissa can add to this and probably has that in her slides. Added 76 new programs. Marvin and I looked at that. We could zoom in on that, but just to say across the board, these were different project types as HUD categorizes them. Good percentage, less than 20% were new shelter beds that came on, programs with shelter beds, some transitional housing programs, rental assistance programs, and some rapid housing prevention, rental assistance. And then overall, the amount of profiles created in 2024, this is just how many profiles were created in the HMIS. So there are some nuances to this that we can sort of round out the edges on, but just at a macro view, about the same as last year. And then again, I want to highlight the work of the admin team. We had 12 monthly focused newsletters that went out last year. So that's a compilation of all the things that are important that we're sending out to providers so that we can maintain good data quality and they know of any upcoming changes. And then we met all of our HMIS training requirements in the work plan. So again, good work for the admin team. And there are other trainings that just ad hoc happened that the admin team and the community impact team held as needed, as community members needed specific things, highlighting the work of the data management team on my team, Joel, who held a lot of time for the new bed and inventory configuration. And I'll talk about that in a second, that we implemented this year. System growth, for those of you that like tables and tiny ones, here is just a year over year of the growth that you see in the system. And take 2025 with the context that we just started. So that looks now low. We just started 2025, but really focusing in on 2024 and then the changes from 2023. I want to thank explicitly Melissa on the admin team. Thank you so much for putting this together for this committee. Community impact. So really, as the HMIS lead agency, and this term gets used in a variety of ways, but for HUD, we are the designated HMIS lead agency, meaning we oversee the implementation of the HMIS and ensure that all of our federal reports and the way that we collect information at all of these shelters, transitional housing, comports to the requirements that HUD says we must, in the ways that we must collect data and the kinds of data. And so that's person-centered data collection. And that also means that in some programs, we collect the basic universal data elements, who are you? What is your demographic information? What is your age? And then other program-specific things like move-in dates into certain programs and income of certain programs. So we're charged with that task of making sure all that happens. And so these were our focus areas in 2024. And why that's important is because this affects the work that is done in the committee. So I want to, go over this slide quickly. These were the trainings implemented over the course of the year. Thank you again for the admin team for hosting all of these and all of the presenters and material that went into that. So our HMIS users, all to say, are getting trained, and there is that continuous training that occurs for them to make sure they understand the work that they're doing. And then as the HMIS lead, the community impact team, these were the things that we were focused on throughout the year. You can see that you are a big part of this. One of the largest, one of the domains that we are focused on the community impact team. You can see here, I won't go through all of them, but these were our projects and or reporting requirements that we fulfilled throughout 2024. And you can see in that yellow box the things in which that manifested for the committee, mostly reviewing our policies and procedures related to these things. A couple of things I do want to point out. We renewed our BitFocus contract with our with BitFocus. So that happened. That was a major lift where we ensured that we had everything in that contract to continue to maintain the HMIS. Also, another big achievement was for the CI team was we applied for a $1.5 million HMIS grant to try to further support the work that we're doing in the expansion. We don't know the results of that. We will know later in the year. And some other highlights for you all is just to see all the data requests in that analytics section, and then how we supported the NOFO scoring criteria. So a lot of data requests, and then in that, the NOFO was really important because we had to come up with those metrics and the ways in which we rate how the funding is allocated. And I want to thank Ruby and Tamara for being part of that work group previously as the SPC co-chairs. Really brought a lot of innovation and insight to that work. So thank you for that from last year. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention all of the federal reports that we were able to submit and improve the data quality on for 2024. This is really a community achievement down to the provider level, to our admin team, to us, and then we were bringing these results back to you throughout the year of 2024. That said, I just want to put an asterisk here. There is still a lot of work to do to catch this committee up, to understand a lot of how these metrics are put together for those federal reports. And I hope as we go through the year that co-chairs will support that data literacy. training for you all, and I know they do. So the System Performance Committee, the focus areas for your work, you have the task of reviewing and approving the annual work plan, any policies and procedure reviews that need to be done for emergent projects like the bed and inventory configuration, where we needed to after we did that configuration, the HMIS linking people to beds, we needed to have a way to enforce that work. And that was one of the achievements of the committee for this year. And I'll go over that a little bit more here, the list. And then, so that policy work is a really big part of the work that you're commissioned to do. And then the HMIS oversight. Are we in compliance? Are we doing everything that we're supposed to? And if you recall, throughout the year, we were looking at the HMIS governance matrix, which comes from HUD's checklist of all the things that we're required to do. And so we looked over that, and we continually look at our documents and our policies and review them and make sure they're up to date. And then just committee membership. This is more information about the committee, I guess you will, but making sure that we are staffing this committee properly, that we have the right skill set, knowledge, and abilities on this committee to do what we need to do, and that partnership collaboration is happening, that connective tissue with our other boards and committees and our external stakeholders. You are all delegates to this work. So I just want to express my appreciation for all the things that you've done, that I see, that we've all seen, and the things that we haven't seen that we know you're doing to create and strengthen those partnerships, and want to continue that on in 2025. So what were you all able to complete? Well, quite a lot. If you think about it, we only met 11 times during the year, and here we have a list of the things that were tangible products and tangible things that you did to improve our system. You approved that work plan. You approved the bed and inventory configuration, really leading us in the nation as a community that innovated in being able to look at who is occupying our major asset, beds, to help those who are experiencing homelessness. Updated our data quality improvement policy. So really enshrining what our expectations are for data completion, data timeliness, consistency, and accuracy, so that our providers understand what their expectations are. I think it's right now that very much in fashion to say clarity is kindness. That's really what this data quality improvement policy does. It creates that clarity for providers. We continually reviewed the matrix, making sure that we're in compliance with HUD's HMIS lead requirements, gave those updates periodically, and that's a continuous process. So that doesn't end for us. We'll constantly be looking at documentation and updating that. And then we started the review of the DV coordinated entry configuration. We can't count it as a approve for this year, but certainly starting out strong this year, approving that just minutes ago. Also, could not forget the great work of Tamara, and being the driver for the Wellbeing Blueprint, and getting a project plan together, and continuing to support that work, and continuing to be energized to implement those for wellbeing metrics. And really that starts with us on the committee and implementing these principles, and then rolling that out in the community in the form of metrics. So trying to innovate in the way that we measure our system, which isn't always counts, not just qualitative, but our what is the well-being of those that we serve. So thank you, Tamara. Really, really, really big thank you for not letting go of this and continuing to push this forward. And then, of course, the great work that you all did of reviewing applications and onboarding Bella and Marvin and other members that have come on throughout the year. And then the board and committee communication and alignment. There was some identified communication areas where we can improve, and that really created within KCRHA our alignment work group. So we're working as KCRHA staff to make sure what you experience in one committee is similar to this committee. So there's continuity if everyone here wants to participate in those different spaces, that the same processes and setups are going to feel familiar so that you can be effective right out of the gate as you're working with these other committees and boards. And then I do want to mention, we did have, you do have oversight over appeals of agencies that want to get onboarded, where in KCRHA, in this case, for Anything Helps, we initially denied them. For a variety of reasons, you can go back and look at the notes, but the great work of our co-chairs, Anything Helps, and then KCRHA working through that process for the first time and getting that appeal and getting them into the system and working within the homeless system. So thank you to Ruby and Tamara who had oversight over that appeal, and the committee who voted on that and kept asking questions, frankly. How do we get here? How do we get there? What do we need to do? And pushing that forward so that we had clearer processes in place. So thank you all for that. With that, that's really the end of the presentation, and wanted to leave space for questions and then to inspect any part of this. And really, if I could anchor us in, if you don't mind maybe writing this down for yourselves, but really want to get some feedback on any aspect of these that we may have missed, and then what did go well and what could you see us wanting to improve on next year. That said, I'm sure the co-chairs have some ideas of what they want to get out of this, so I'll hand it back over to you, Bella and Marvin. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, when Daniel first presented this to us this week, after requesting that we have this like foundational understanding of what work we've done, which is really just tremendous considering that you had only 11, meetings last year. I just, really appreciate that there's a strong foundation to work from. And to really reiterate it. And that's what we agreed to do this week when we sent the emails out to you to confirm your commitment to being here at the meetings and doing this work this year with us. So thank you to those who have already confirmed. If you have not confirmed, or if there's accommodations or any requests, please do send those emails to Marvin and I so that we have a really good idea going into February, not only what our work plan is and that cross-sectional component with the other committees and the CoC, and making sure that we're laying out a firm, foundation, or at least something to build upon, even if there's fluctuations in it. But I am really personally intrigued as a new co-chair. There are a couple of things that weren't registered on that list. We had a survey, I believe, last year that I've seen. And so my question for that list in 2024 that you provided is if there's anything from the previous co-chairs, Ruby and Tamara, that you would like to kind of expand upon or highlight, or if there was anything that was missing, so that we do have this firm foundation of understanding going into what, for all intents and purposes, will be our working sessions moving forward to build upon what you've already done. So anything from either of the previous co-chairs?
Yeah, this is Tamara. I'm not crying anymore. So I actually am looking into different opportunities to like pool resources together to stand up a pilot project that I think would be incredibly meaningful as it relates to that well-being blueprint pathway. That was so like I'm just so proud. I'm so proud to see that on a KCRHA slide reflected out into the community, because that's really where I think we'll see systems change, narrative change, culture change, and eventually policy change. I think that's where we have to like change hearts and minds through public education. And I think this is one way of doing that in a way that really honors equity, transformative justice, changing the conditions of our communities that contribute to poverty, that like prop up structural racism and white supremacy and ableism. I want a movement for like social change. And, you know, I think the well-being blueprint, what it's done for me has revolutionized my own thoughts about my own well-being. And I'm currently housed, but that hasn't always been the case. So I'm wondering, like, could we use this as a paradigm shift? And also use it as a way to create that relational work of systems change. We have to be in community. We have to partner together and realize, and I'm operating from a place of vulnerability right now, but like, that this work is difficult, and we don't have time to be like playing blame games and getting in like caught up in drama. So I want to really emphasize, push for, and advocate, prop up well-being, because it's something every human being needs, not just to survive, but to thrive. And I think we can shift our systems if we really lean into that ideology and philosophy. So I'll have more details soon about the potential of this pilot project and getting that situated. But that's my update on that.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for giving us some time to reflect on this. And Tamra, I've been happy to partner with you on the well-being blueprint, you know, on being able to bring that to the forefront of our conversations. And I've loved learning about that. I've also wanted to give a huge shout out to Daniel, because, you know, he's been extremely helpful in coordinating and answering questions that we might have and helping support our movements forward in the work that we're doing, and changes that like, you know, making the song of, you know, bringing that to the committee and being able to, you know, Tamara really started and spearheaded that idea of starting with an artistic factor. And so that was a really big accomplishment for an artist and for the system as well. I think it's been really great. And I also wanted to say thank you guys for the committee's hard work on the Anything That Helps situation. I think it's important to draw in as many organizations as we can, and it kind of helped refine a few of the back end things, and that's always a good thing to have refined. And just the openness and willingness to hear different sides of the story and everything like that was just a really good movement for the relationships that we're building as a continuum and on the System Performance Committee. As for the notes on the slides, everything looks really great. Yeah, I would note that we did do the survey, but I would also say the thing that I think is important is the cross communication between the committees is what has been really helpful. So good work on 2024, everyone. And thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Tamara. And thanks for, letting us do co-chair for a little while. I'm happy to hand it over to Bella and Marvin. Sorry about that.
Thanks to the previous co-chairs, Tamara and Ruby. And I look forward to Tamara having more information, possibly being able to put that on our future agenda items and reviewing more to come, it seems like. We have a really good time right now. And so did anybody else have any questions or comments about where we are? Marvin?
Well, I'll lead off, and only because I hear it so often. We start these conversations, but we don't always press through. So we did a year's worth of training within our system. How do we plan to evaluate and assess the effectiveness of those trainings so that we aren't being regressive, but we're building on what was being done the year before? And how does that look to us, or where will that be taking place? Thanks.
And Marvin, I'm not sure if that was an open question to all the committee members, but one thing that I am focused on is data literacy for 2025. And I think we all come with a different level of understanding information and what's important to us. So really having some mechanism where I can, I always take notes, but things that the committee needs to know. I have it in my mind what will get you there. And I know some of it will be redundant for those of you who know this work really well, or have an orientation to data. So that's something, Bella and Marvin, we can look at the agenda for February and go through a training schedule for the committee. Training for users, we partner with our admin team, so they could answer that. Would either of you or others want to know more about the user trainings, or I can talk more about the committee trainings, or get some of your training needs or requests in the chat and I can compile those?
Well, I was really, I am knowledgeable for the training for the committee. Within the system performance and HMIS, we conduct trainings. We did a year's worth. What is the mechanism that evaluates and assesses the effectiveness of those trainings? And where is that represented? And once again, that may be with the partners that we work with that actually do the trainings, or, it's in a part of the outcomes. I just haven't seen one, and we don't speak to it. It's not enough to do a thing, but if we're not taking that next step, and I won't speak for the committee as a whole, it is simply my experience. If we don't take the next step, then we end up doing things that we probably would not have done if we had taken the next step and evaluating and figured out if what we were doing or asking our partners to do was efficient and effective. So that's where I was, and that's what's usually not part, or hasn't been to date, part of how we look over our grounding work as we move year to year. So
Thanks
it's
for
just
bringing that up, Marvin. Oh, go
just
ahead.
a question. Write it down somewhere, we can get to it. We may not have an answer for it, but not having an answer for it shouldn't be silence. It's, we don't have an answer for it and we'll work on it, or we'll look into it. That is hopefully the back and flow of sharing information that gets us answers, and not necessarily question marks in our understanding of our system. Thanks.
I appreciate you bringing that up because it coattails on the request that I opened up with, the invitation for people to email us with their comments, their ideas, their suggestions, and also the fact that we communicated, Marvin and I as new co-chairs, wanting to meet with those that are available and able, preferably sooner in the year. I did not participate in a survey, so I don't have the results of what was asked at that time. If there was anything regarding the trainings, that came up in previous years, but I second what you're, the content of what you're saying is, and what we're trying to do is build upon what we already know has been working or not, and then start to ask, everybody a part of the community, everybody a part of our membership and beyond, what has been working for you and why or why not, so that we don't, go through the same, processes, but we're building upon something and lessons learned in the past. So again, I invite everybody to reach out to Marvin and I with at any time during this year to meet, to be able to, and we have already been receiving some of those from you. So thank you, because there are questions that have been coming up that are still outlined from some items from 2024. And so I want to make sure that we're not just, making our agenda for February, but I'm setting aside my personal agenda to be able to hold space for the things that need to be discussed and work through on a continual basis. And in that regard, I guess I would also pose the question to the community, are surveys effective for you? Do you like to engage that type of communication, that type of feedback? or would you prefer, to have the one-on-one, at least Zoom conversations? To me, different people's communication styles, I want to stay open for allowing what you would like to be able to do with feedback. And so understanding whether or not even surveys are valuable to you, or maybe just to half the committee and the rest of the committee would prefer to meet and have notes. So any thoughts on that is welcome, please.
Yeah, this is Tamara. I love the fact that you brought that up, because I think that often gets overlooked in most like settings. And most like the accessibility issue is still very real for so many of us. And when you have an invisible disability, it means a lot to know that there's somebody out there looking out for you, to know that like they understand you may not like process information in the same way that like other quote unquote neurotypical folks, process information. And so I personally love visual aids and doing surveys and it like and narrative, like I love giving feedback. So in whatever form. But yes, I think I'm grateful for you bringing up that, because that's another goal for the larger homeless response system that I would like to see, is paying more attention and collective care kind of support to people who have who have been diagnosed or not with like a neurodivergent existence, and that's to be honest and like fully transparent, like that is something I'm grappling with now as a late identified neurodivergent woman. It's an interesting experience, and the fact that like I now understand how I interpret and process information is different than like what our like professional white supremacy culture requires of us or demands of us. So thank you for that, and thank you for like, that is the core of equity, that is the core of justice, when you are paying explicit attention to the needs of marginalized communities and you are centering your love and care around them, because that ultimately supports and like provides care to everyone. Thank you. I'm my gratitude. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Tamara. Frank, I believe
Yeah,
you're up
so
next.
I'm definitely an outlier in this group because I'm older and but I have 20 years of experience in the private sector and then 20 years in the humanitarian sector, all mostly in the global South. And all of our programs were designed in Africa, Latin America, and Asia to get feedback from various communities. So a little bit different, very different, perhaps, from what you do. So my first year of observing you guys is I love the energy, I love the smarts, and I've learned a lot. So thank you. That said, I think Daniel said earlier that we're the lead agency around data collection for HUD. We should also be the lead agency for gathering data from our customers, both from the agencies that are members as well as the community. And I thought I've communicated this more quietly with Daniel. I thought the BitFocus survey was massively incomplete. Didn't survey enough people, didn't tell us enough information. And so I would urge the group to, be more self-critical, be both about the work you do as well as the feedback you get. And so I would say if you want to do something going forward and you want to the 20 of us are great feedback mechanisms, but we need to reach out to agencies more, and we need to get a much broader representation of how they feel about the work that, what the efficacy of HMIS, what could be better, and we may not be able to act on all of it, but it just seems like we need to insist on getting better feedback. And it's dirty work. It might involve more than an online, it will involve more than an online survey. That's not how we get feedback from most of our constituents. So thank you for including me in the mix, and I'm happy to help with ideas about how to get kind of broader feedback, both from the agencies that are doing the work as well as the community.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much, Frank. And thank you for bringing up that topic, because without making anybody known, obviously, and trying to keep it general, that is one of the areas that I myself had questions about because of my research background. And so I did receive your communication, and this, I look forward to meeting with you, because this is very important, that, at least to me, that I'm trying to engage different aspects and ways that people communicate their preferences, so that we can build those bridges, because communication is one of the first, elements of anything being built. So yes, I look forward to being able to move this topic further with you, Frank.
But you're doing
you
good work, and thank you. And it's thankless work sometimes, but sometimes you need to kind of get some inspiration from the feedback from the community.
Ruby?
Yeah, thank you guys. I really appreciate all of the conversation that's happening here today. Frank, I'm so glad that you're here on the committee, and everyone is, committed to this work. I just love to see it. I wanted to bring up a comment that I received during the open house from a staff member that works kind of in the work that we're doing here with the System Performance Committee. And I just wanted to share that, the staff would like to maybe see some of the outcomes like we did today on specific tasks or asks. And I thought that that was a really important thing, because, oftentimes we do kind of get the work done and then breeze past it and on to the next thing. And so maybe it doesn't get communicated to the full extent of what we have, like what we actually did. And we did it here today, so that's great. I just wanted to uplift that one comment that I did receive from KCRHA staff. And I thought it was a great comment, because that's right. We need to see the outcomes of what we're doing, and also to see, to what Frank and both Bello and Marvin were talking about, that community, like, what is the community feedback on the outcome? And is that, that, of course, that's important. And so, like, what can we do better to facilitate that? And I'm really happy to see that. The last thing I wanted to say was just to mention that we did receive Alex on our team this year. She's been a big help in the communications for the System Performance Committee, and I just wanted to uplift that. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Ruby. All of this is very valuable. In fact, when you were just sharing, Ruby, a question came up in my mind for Alex and Daniel. Where do we do these updates with the KCRHA staff? Is this going to be an agenda item on the convening? Because I don't remember seeing that. But where are, like, annual wrap-ups for the work that has been done? Because it is important for staff to be able to have that closed loop circle, knowing that their participation in everything that they're doing is being supported by us, and that there's, like, tangible results there as well. And I recognize that, and don't know where that's being facilitated.
You want to take a crack at that, Daniel? If not, I don't want Victoria to think that we did not recognize that her hand was raised. Daniel?
Yeah, Yeah, I'm happy to. So the mechanism, of course, is these are public meetings that are watched by our executive and senior level leadership, so they're getting input that way. I communicate outwards any impacts. It's like a back and forth. So as things come through the committee, I relay that back to our director, goes to our chief, who's part of the executive team. So there is that, I guess, vertical communication happening within the organization. And then there's obviously they review the recordings and what we go through. And then we have discussions about what our work plan is for the year, that then informs how we sketch out like what we might have upcoming in terms of like policies and things that we need to do. The nice thing is that some of the things that we do on the committee here are already commitments that are required, and that fills most of our time. And but the other part of the communication is in the last year, we created the board and committee alignment team within KCRHA. So monthly we get together and we look at what is upcoming and what's been done and make sure that we're communicating that outwardly within the organization. I don't know if that's exactly as formal as maybe you all are thinking, but I'm open to taking notes and getting feedback on that. And Alex, sounds like you have something there too.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I mean, for like updates and stuff, I know like we do, our comms team does like a daily send out with like news things happening around the city. But it'd be interesting if we had points and things that we wanted to get to staff, like, we could have a discussion about those achievements or things that we want to maybe talk to like the CEO's office and ask if that's something that can be sent out on Fridays, or just kind of like an update to the staff. And Bella and Marvin, if you want to reach out to Daniel and I with some of those updates, like I'd be happy to talk to our comms director and CEO's office to see if we can keep spreading that information, because everyone likes to hear good positive news in the middle of their work week. So I think that's a great idea.
Thank you for that, Alex. And thank you, Marvin, for bringing up that point. I apologize, Victoria, but I did see your hand up briefly and then I saw it go down. So I want to make sure that I am giving space for you. If there was something that you felt you wanted to add to this, please do so.
No problem. I lowered my hand. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Alex,
Victoria.
Just a point of clarification. I wanted to speak more towards the communication to the public about the successes. I do believe that there's great communication going between the boards and the staff, and just wanted to make sure that we're starting to, maybe it's through written submitted updates by the boards, I'm not sure, but how can we strengthen the knowledge for the community and the public to know that we are making forward progress in certain aspects and working on making forward progress in most aspects. And so I just wanted to kind of reiterate that's what I meant by the communication out to the public on our successes. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, thanks, Ruby. Again, like that's another thing we should meet and talk about. I think our comms team would be happy to send that out in a provider email or something like that. So it can go both ways, staff and to the public. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. I agree. I think that the communication and the transparency all the way around hopefully will build those bridges and strengthen them, for other community members. So both staff and internal as well as external. In fact, Alex and Daniel, we have that new newsletter. So I don't know what the communication outlets are for external and who those, newsletters go to, but I'm just bringing up, different channels that we might be able to consider, for the committees.
Thank you. All that's good. Daniel, did you want to respond? If not, I was going to move us right along.
Oh, I think I contribute what I could there on that. There's questions later on specifics, email them to me, but yeah.
Marvin,
Yes.
we do have one comment in the chat from Melissa Sutton about
Okay.
the annual user survey that I would like to acknowledge as well, since we're
Please do.
talking about surveys.
Yep. Do you want to read it now? Or
Yeah, Melissa Sutton added, I would like to highlight that the annual user survey is only released at the discretion and direction of the HMIS lead, and that they felt that it was worth highlighting in this conversation.
thank you. Well, is there anything else for the good of our order today?
I would like to add, for our work, we do have planned training next month, but because the training plan has not been approved, my team and I are a bit, we're unsure about whether or not we will go through with it. But the proposed training is on chronic homelessness and household management, which would occur on, I believe, the 19th from 10 to 11 a.m. So I'm not quite sure how we handle that sort of work.
I'll take a stab at it. Daniel, when is our next meeting as a committee?
As a committee, that's the third Wednesday of each month. I'm sorry, I don't know why I have to go through a calendar every time we do this, but let me look.
That particular training is actual scheduled on the same day as the system performance committee, but earlier in the morning.
Earlier in the morning.
Why would it not be? Do we have is the question whether we approve that one training and then wait for the full schedule to approve for the rest of the year? Would that be helpful?
I mean, I'm not quite sure of the process. I think for the training plan, we have a plan available. The issue has been lack of survey responses to dictate that training plan, but also we do need to do training. So it's kind of that rub.
Any suggestions for a pathway forward here? Because I think we need to do the trainings. And
yeah, I mean, I would recommend we stay the course with the training. And I think what Melissa is linking to is the training plan is based on survey results that the committee, I think, is feeling like there were some deficits in the response rate. And in that training plan, are we training to what the needs are if we only got so many people responding to what they needed? My recommendation, this is a strong recommendation, we don't cancel any meetings, trainings, we continue those on. And then Bella and Marvin strategize around what we're going to do with an impartial survey, and how we're going to use those, and invite obviously like Frank and experience there and anyone else on the community that wants to dive into that. That's my recommendation. Keep the training as we in parallel figure out what is the needs and draw that out of our user base if we can do another go at it or some other way.
Thank you, Daniel. Bella?
Ruby has her hand up.
Okay.
Quickly,
Ruby?
I know we only have 2 minutes left. Thanks, Marvin. Appreciate it. Thanks for that feedback, Daniel, as well. I would, as a member of the committee and as also a member of the public, I would say that the chronic homelessness training sounds like a great start for this year. I'm interested to attend, so I don't know if that helps with the decision at all, but I feel that would be a useful training. So.
Thank you,
All right.
Ruby. Does everybody have the communications for this training coming up? And if you don't, can you reach out to Marvin and I or Daniel to make sure that you have the information that you need for it?
What I can do right now is I'll let our admin team, Melissa and Lauren, get all of the contact information for our committee, and so that link can be sent out for those who are wanting to attend. Melissa,
Thanks,
I'll follow
Daniel.
up on Friday for that.
Sounds perfect. Thank you so much.
It is now 3:59. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. It was we got through a lot. Bella, any final words?
Thank you, everyone, for your patience and your grace with me for not having everything lined up to a T. I will be better at this moving forward. I promise you. And I am so grateful for everybody participating. And yeah, please always feel free to leave comments and suggestions, email anytime. I'm keeping a lot of personal space to make sure that I can meet, any kind of different changes or anything. And I know that Marvin and Daniel, I'm very excited to work with both of them and all of you this year. It's already been very great, and I can see that we're going to do really good work. So thank you for the first meeting, everyone.
It is now 4:00. We will close our first meeting for the System Performance Committee for January 2025. Everyone have a great evening. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And away they go. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. All right.